Welcome to Simply Business. I'm your host, Taylor Lee, and I'm so excited to have you here. As a business consultant, I've helped countless business owners simplify their strategies and achieve their goals, and now I'm here to bring you this expertise right to your ears. Each episode, I'll be sharing tips and strategies to help you achieve your business goals without the overwhelm. I will also be chatting with business owners and industry experts to share their stories, insights, and lessons they've learned along the way. Let's dive in and simplify your business. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to go into this episode. I cannot even deal. I'm literally going to skip the whole intro and all of the things. But as you know, if you like today's episode, please share on your socials, tag me, follow me on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen. It is so greatly appreciated. Your support is so greatly appreciated. And I really hope you get a lot out of today's episode. But without further ado, we need to get in. And I've got my phone up because this is honestly like a mini training that I've prepared for you, because something that's a common theme right now at the time of recording this, it's Feb. This is going live in April, is sales conversations. And I feel like when we think of sales, we really associate sales to bro marketing and sales calls and close them out on the call and drop the price on the call and all of these things that aren't necessarily the way in which that I do sales. And there's no right and wrong way. Both work, right? There's 1,001 ways to do sales in your business. And this episode is purely to give you education and to empower you so that you can, find your own sales style in your business, because I truly believe it's a style. It's like fashion. So I want to really educate you so you can allow yourself to find that. And I'm specifically speaking about sales conversations in the DMs today. So your sales conversations are going to be the thing that is going to either convert a client or a client goes to you in the DMs, for lack of better phrase. So we want to really speak to how that we can implement both personalization and strategy in the sales process to ensure that you are closing the most amount of clients as possible. And I would pull it up, but I've got my notes up on my Notion. I literally have a tracker for conversations in my DMs, which if you don't do that, please do it. I literally just recorded an episode for last month on tracking your numbers and being taken seriously in business. Please track those numbers so you can ensure that you are actually tracking the data of how that your sales conversations are performing. Because without going into a complete deep dive, if you aren't tracking your data, you cannot identify what is working and what's not working in your business point blank. Right? I had a client come to me the other day and she said to me, Taylor, I'm getting so many leads, but I'm not converting. Right? So within that, with her ability to track all of the leads that were coming, because we implemented being able to track them, she could look and go, okay, we're getting 42 leads, but I'm only closing a few, like a handful, like a small amount. I feel like I should be closing more. I was like, yeah, you should be closing more, right? And we can be closing more because it is personal. It's not something where they're going through a generic sales funnel, right? Which we can obviously add in levels of personalization into our sales funnels, but we want to understand, okay, why are they not closing out in the DMs? If you're having conversations in the DMs, why are we not closing? So I was able to identify, working with her, okay, this is the problem. We don't need to focus on your social media content and posting more content and getting more visibility and focusing on your podcast. Like, that's not the problem right now. The problem is you're getting a shit ton of leads and they're not converting. That's our problem. So then from there, we can actually reverse engineer how we're going to solve this problem. And that is your first point for this mini training, is you need to understand and track your numbers so you can effectively identify the problems that you're experiencing so you can solve them, right? So what I want to go into today is an example of a low converting DM versus a high converting approach to DMs. And with this client in particular, I'm not going to give what she gave me. I've made a generic version of this as if I was selling my social media space, which is my social media membership, which you can absolutely join. But she sent me this DM of what she was sending. I was like, okay, what were you sending them? She was like this. I was like, there's your problem. Ring-a-ling-a-ling, I know the problem. So it was something along the lines of this, but I've made it still very generic, and hers was definitely more personal and went into more depth, but I want to give you an example. So, hi love, so excited that you reached out to get support around your social media content and how you can make more sales on social media. My offer's strategic socials includes 5 modules that you get instant access to. Does this sound like something you would be interested in? Okay. And again, this is not my client, but it was something along these lines, which was like a generic copy and paste, like, hi, my love, so excited. These are the things. Would you like more info? Right? So the problems with this, it lacks personalization. So there's no real connection, there's no real rapport. You're just going straight into the sale. Would you like to know more information? It's giving the equivalent of walking down the shopping center and they're like, hey man, would you like to buy this thing? It's like, no, that's not how we do sales, right? Sales is all about a personal experience. And at the end of the day, you're solving a problem for someone. And you're telling them why your solution is the superior solution at the end of the day, right? We want to have a personal connection, and people buy from people, and sending a copy and paste message that, especially in an era of AI, it's not going to cut it. That's our first problem. Our second problem is you're pushing the offer straight away, right? So it jumps straight into them needing the program versus, again, understanding the person, understanding what problems they're facing, understanding the challenges that they're coming up against, right? Because what you think the challenges are of like they're not getting sales in their social media, yes, that might be a problem for them. But for them, the biggest thing is coming up with content, or the biggest thing is, being confident to speak on camera, right? So you haven't even taken a moment to get to know this person, right? And for me, like I'm already just like, ick. Like if I was on the receiving end, I'm like, no, like I'm not purchasing it because there's no level of even care factor, right? And I want to preface, there is nothing like to my client, there is nothing like, she knows the things. Like I fucking love my client. She's still working with me. But if we're not taught any different, we don't know any different, which is exactly the purpose of this episode. So you can be really, really empowered to move forward. See, it feels generic, right? And there's no invitation or conversation, right? So we get the gist. Like I'm sure you're listening to that and you're like, yes, yes, and yes, I get it, Taylor. So let's go into a sales framework that actually converts. So first and foremost, step one, this is my framework. We need to connect, right? So create a genuine connection, right? I have been on the receiving end of quite a few sales conversations, really great ones and really not so great ones. And I always just know what they're doing and it makes a difference, right? And I can know the strategy that they're applying. I can know what they're doing from a sales psych perspective. However, it still doesn't take away from the fact that I feel cared for. So I've had a conversation with one person, for an example, and she actually went into my content and she saw that I had done an ice bath. This was like maybe 15 posts down, and she literally went to the effort of speaking about that. She's like, oh my God, I saw you do that. I do them. How do you like it? Blah, blah, blah. You get the gist, right? There was a level of connection. So if you see mutual followers, if you see that you like things, if you know that they've been following, you've had conversations before, how can you have a level of connection that's actually genuine? Not the rapport of like, oh, like, where do you live? Like it feels boring and it's done before, right? So how can you have a level of connection to make the person on the receiving end feel cared about? Because at the end of the day, I know you care about your clients. So why are we not making them cared for in their first interaction with you, right? And then it's like this misconnection, or this disconnection rather, between your content and then someone messages you and it's like, oh, you say you care for your clients and your content, but then there's this huge disconnect here. So an example of this can be, and I like to voice note because it takes the level of personalization a layer deeper as well. But if I was to pick up the phone, I'm like, hey, Sophie, like if her name's Sophie, like I'm just going to pick a random example. Thank you so much for reaching out. I see that you're looking to improve like your socials based on like, again, what did they swipe up to? What did they message? Like you can tie it into that. I would love to know, like, give me the tea. What are you facing right now when it comes to socials? Like, do you feel like it's more how to create content, or do you feel like it's like you're posting content consistently, but it's just not getting conversions for you? Like, I would love to know. And if there's something else in that, let me know. Instantly in that, I've led that client. Is it this, or is it more this, or is it something else? And I'm understanding the challenges and frustrations that that client is facing on a day-to-day basis, right? Really, really important. Next step within that is we want to extract. So we want to ask questions that take it a layer deeper to understand what frustrations they're facing. And I think a lot of people have a negative connotation to pain points, quote unquote. It's like, I don't want people to move from pain. I want them to move from desire. However, we're solving a problem, right? And that pain and that like suffering, quote unquote, doesn't need to be these deep levels of like speaking to someone that's so early days in the service that you provide, right? It doesn't need to be, if you're a fitness coach, you don't need to be speaking to someone that's like feeling so deeply insecure in their body and they've never trained before, they've never gone into a gym. Like that's where people go amiss. And it's like speaking to insecurity and shame versus someone that can be maybe further along in their journey, or even if they are early days, it's like you're not speaking to their pain from a lens of shame. You're speaking to their pain of like, I understand you and I see you, because as humans, we innately want to be seen and heard, right? So that's what we want to really focus on. So, understanding like what would it look like if you would be able to consistently convert more leads? Like, what's holding you back from actually getting those results? So I would love to know, what have you implemented before? I'm assuming that this hasn't been your first port of call. Maybe it has, which is amazing. But what have the solutions been? Like, have you been listening to podcasts? Have you worked with another coach or mentor before? Like, what would it look like for you to have this result that you're looking for, or the transformation that you provide in this program, right? What would it look like to achieve X? And I'm really curious to know, have you done anything to work towards that before? That will allow me to just really see whether you're at in your journey so I can point you in the right direction, right? Does that make sense? And I kind of went between like talking to you guys and the example of the sales conversation. So my apologies there. My brain is glitchy. But that already, compared to the first example I gave you of a really, really dry DM, like we're really understanding, and there's back and forth, right? You can do this either on a sales call. This example is for conversations in the DMs. Like the goal shouldn't be trying to have as little as back and forth as possible to close someone. Like, yes, we want to obviously not have conversations for weeks on end. Don't take that and run with it, but guide people and lead people. So, even within this, can you just tell me in like a couple of voice notes, like 2 to 3 voice notes, what do you feel like, yada, 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 yada? Because I have had people in the past that have come in, it's like duts with like 20 minutes worth of voice notes. I'm like, hey, would love you to just condense this for me. But you want to lead them, right? So they can feel really, really safe and know what they need. The next part is we're going to reflect. So then we need to really identify within that, like, or reflect them rather. It sounds like you're X, Y, and Z. This is like sales cycle 101, right? So you want to repeat back to them and go, okay, so I just want to ensure that I'm really on the right path. So it sounds like you're really nailing creating content. You get great results. You get really great reach. You get the good engagement. You have no problem with coming up with content ideas. But the frustration for you is like you're posting this content, you're doing all the things by the book, yet you're still struggling to get conversions, right? Like you're still posting. It's like you see link clicks potentially, but there's still no conversions. Do we see? So we're repeating back. They're like, yep, that's exactly right. Like, let me know if I'm on the money. And then I have the exact space that you're going to get so much value out of. It's going to be the exact right space for you. So you're getting from them, you're getting that reaffirming that that's the problem they're facing for your own knowledge. And they're hearing it, they're speaking and going, yeah, that's the thing I'm facing, because it's often in a conversation, we can sometimes convince ourselves it's something else. Then we want to go into actually diagnosing the root cause, because as a service provider especially, you'll probably know that the thing that's presenting, and I use this example all the time, the symptom is not the problem, right? So the symptom that's presenting is that they aren't getting conversions from their content. The actual problem is poor messaging, as one example. But if I'm directly speaking to the fact that they have poor messaging, that doesn't resonate and land for my ideal client when I'm creating direct content or the person I'm having a conversation with. So what we want to do in the sales conversation is understand, okay, so this is the symptom you're facing. You're not getting conversions. So what I want to tell you is, so based on this, what's actually the problem here is your messaging. And I go to use the word ammo. It sounds so aggressive, but if I go onto their socials, I can instantly see, based on the work that I do, being that it's social media, if their messaging is on or not. So I can say, yeah, I can literally see in your messaging, I'm not surprised that you're not getting conversions because you're doing X, Y, and Z. And it's not giving them the entirety of the solution, but you're supporting the diagnosis of the problem that they're facing. And it's also, establishing you as the credible person, because you're taking a layer deeper, or you're taking the care a layer deeper as well. So again, think of the fact, like, just so you know, when someone reaches out to inquire to work with you, it's very fucking unlikely that you're the only person they've reached out to. They have probably sent the same message to you and someone else or another 4 people, right? So when you're the one that has the effort of going back and forth, you want to deeply understand them, understand the frustrations that's causing for them, understand their goals and desires. You're doing that. And Sally down the road here is just sending that generic DM. Guess who they're going to want to work with? You. Like, you're already winning just in this conversation. You might kind of go into, but what if I don't say the right thing? Like, can that be okay? Because this is a skill set and there's a level of care. You're already fucking winning the race, right? So if you actually just practice this skill set, if you work with someone like myself, mentor, like get feedback on the way in which that you're running sales conversations, track the data, because then you can know, okay, when I said this thing to this person, that really worked. Like you can understand what works and find your unique style of selling. Like I mentioned, like we don't have to fucking close people on calls. We don't have to drop prices on calls if that's not what you want to do. If that's what you want to do, be my guest. It's personally not my approach. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not my approach and it's not the way in which that I want to sell. So we want to be able to diagnose. So for example, like I just mentioned, so from what I'm hearing, it sounds like your content isn't reaching or resonating with your ideal clients, yada, yada, yada. Whatever the thing is, right? This is what's going on. Then we can go from there and present the solution, right? So you've understood their pain, you've understood their desires, right? Something I probably didn't mention in that as well, in that like reflect and extract piece, is you also want to get the desires in this point. So something I like to use is either, if I was to wave a magic wand and tell you can have anything in regards to X, or if I was to tell you like, where would you ideally like to be in the next 3 to 6 months? We want to understand those desires in that point as well. Completely missed that for some reason. So then when it comes to the point of presenting the solution, the frustrations they're facing, the desires and goals that they have, what they've tried and tested before that has worked and what hasn't worked, and exactly what direction you're going to take them in because you've diagnosed the problem and they now know, oh, this is the problem I'm facing, right? So then you want to present the solution. You want to present the solution based on what they are looking for and based on all of that information that you have. Where people can go wrong is they do all of this work and then they send the same fucking generic message and go, okay, so what I'm thinking is this, this, and this. If someone doesn't care about, the module on X, Y, and Z, we don't need to cover that. But if someone's coming and they are really struggling with having, like they are looking for more feedback, they're looking for more content ideas, I can then leverage the part of my social media membership where they have direct access to me once a month to ask questions and to get feedback. Does that make sense? So don't give them all of this information if it's not actually important to them, because what's important to one client is not going to be important to the other client, and that's actually okay, and they can still get so much benefit out of the exact same solution. So this is where you need to customize the selling in the DMs to make it make sense for them. Then you've presented the solution, and this is a really key point. When you present that solution, does this sound like something you would be interested in, Taylor? Does this sound something you would be interested in, Sally? Like whoever it is. Like, does this feel like it's on the money? Does this feel aligned with what you're looking for? You want confirmation that that is the thing they want. Reason being, we haven't set the price yet, and this isn't for like some shady like bro marketing side of things. Similar to how I said with being able to diagnose what the actual problem is when it comes to, if you're getting leads but not the conversions. If you say, this is all the things that I'm thinking that's going to be the best solution for you, and this is how much it is, does that feel good? You can't clearly identify if the objection is the actual space or if it's the price, because I can guarantee price is the easiest objection for someone to fall on. I'll think about it, yada, yada, yada. But if you get confirmation that, oh my gosh, yes, this sounds like exactly what I need. I need the membership, I need support with you, but I also want the education so I can focus on nailing my messaging so I can convert and yada, yada, yada. Okay, perfect. So what strategic socials looks like is X amount per month and this and that and the other and logistics. Let me know how you'd like to move forward, because we can lock you in. You can get instant access straight away, and we can go from there. What I will do for you is I'll hold your spot for the next 48 hours because we do have so much demand. Let me know if you want the link, right? So what you've done in that is you've given them, then like if they drop off or if they go, oh, it's too expensive, like that it's actually the pricing objection, not that you've recommended the wrong space for them, right? And they're like, oh, it actually doesn't feel like the right space for me, like all the things. Okay, so then they go, oh my gosh, yep, that's perfect. That pricing feels good. Send me through the link. Then you remind them again, I'll pop this here. You have the next 3 days, 2 days, whatever it is, to jump in on that. Let me know once you're in and I can give you the next steps. Let me know once you're in and yada, insert your thing, right? So you can see the entire time you were leading them through this process, and you also have a level of certainty and clarity, because when you do things like, I'll reach out, like I'll hold your spot for the next 3 days, or this link will be valid for the next 3 days, whatever it might be, you can then touch base 10 hours before that link expires, 10 hours before that you're holding the space. Even if you're not directly holding the space, like it's so that you have a reason to circle back, right? But you're not directly saying this is where I don't like the follow-up side of some sales. Like, I'll follow up with you in 2 days, because it kind of insinuates that like people don't commit straight away, where like I normalize in my world, people commit straight away. And that does happen 80% of the time. Yes, sometimes people think about it, they come back in a week, right? Or they'll typically tell me, but then you at least know someone would say, oh, I'm just waiting for this payout. I'll pay that in a week. Okay, cool. I can extend it for you no later than Wednesday, the 20th of whatever. Does that make sense? So you can understand what that process is going to look like, because there is that open communication, and you're not doing the anxious attachment thing where you're refreshing your DMs, you're refreshing your Stripe, whatever it is, going, has she paid? Has she paid? When should I follow up? Like, is the next day too soon? Is like a week too soon? Like, or is that too long? Have they potentially bought into something else? You can circle back. You've got the timeline for that client. The timelines can look different, and go, hey, just want to let you know that this spot, blah, blah, blah. If there's been anything that's come up for you, if you have any questions, any kind of hesitations, let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you, so you can feel really safe moving forward. So you can feel really solid moving forward. Insert the things. So within that framework, you can see the entirety of the journey, how much that you as the salesperson have led the conversation, which is so fucking important. Your client shouldn't be leading the conversation. The only thing they should lead is coming to you, right? They're swiped up to a story, they've messaged you, and you lead. It's the same way, I use this analogy all the time in dating. Like, we want a man to say, hey, I'm picking you up at 7, be dressed in a nice outfit. We're going to get, would you like sushi or would you like steak for dinner? Right? So it's like you've been led, but there's still a level of choice in it. That feels so good as a receiver, right? And being in that receiver mode. So when someone's coming to you, like, you need to be in the masculine so that they can actually receive and be led. And then the dynamic shifts again, so that you've done your piece, you can receive, and they can then take action and do the thing. You're not taking the action for them. You're not getting their credit card details. Like, then they feel really empowered in the process, because I never want to take away the feeling of that investment, because it's a fucking big thing. I remember my first investment into my business that was 4 figures. It was fucking terrifying. And if someone had just like grabbed the details of my card and plugged it in, like, it's taking away how big that was for me and how transformational that was for me, right? So it's like, then I allow my client or my prospect client at that current point in time to be really empowered in the move that they make. And then I can lead into, from an energetic perspective as well, the receiver mode from like the abundant side of things, right? It's like, I trust that everything I've done is good. I don't need to be in like do more, right? Because that will actually repel your ideal client. You need to then shift dynamics, because the dynamics do shift. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to go into a full training, but this is just an insight into the trainings in my world, especially in my accelerator, in my business accelerator. My one-on-one clients get access to my trainings that I'll recommend for you and things like that. So if this is up your alley with my teaching style of like very just to the point, what are we at? 22 minutes. Please send me a DM. Just reach out to me and just say, hey, I'd love to learn some education from you. I'd love to learn more. We don't need to make it weird. We'll have a conversation exactly like this. Obviously, you'll be able to see as well how I take this framework and I actually make it completely custom. It's not going to feel generic, and it's so organic. And that, my friends, is a fucking art form, because I care about you. I want you to be in the best space. I want you to get the best results possible. And putting you in the wrong space, like, I'm never going to go, okay, one-on-one, because I think that's like the higher ticket. I'm going to set you up for the long-term game. I care about the long-term game of, if you need to start in an accelerator and learn the things first, so then you get the most out of one-on-one, even if it's half the price, that's what I'm going to fucking recommend, because results is the thing that actually gets me business, right? Cash is a one and done. Like, that's not actually the thing. So that's what it's like in my world. But reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation with you. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. I hope you got so much value out of this. Be sure to like, share with a friend that you think will get benefit out of this. Share it on your stories, because I think there needs to be more of this around education, especially for females in business. And we don't have to do things the way that everyone else is doing them. We get to take parts of this approach and how I do sell and make it your own. Learn, apply, trial, test, and I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. Mwah. And that wraps wraps up another episode of Simply Business. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please feel free to share it onto your socials and tag me. I love seeing all of your shares and feedback on the episode. If you're feeling extra generous, please feel free to follow me over on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Taylor Lee Consulting, and a like and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast would be greatly appreciated. I'll catch you in the next episode.